Good afternoon, friends. My name is Phil Levine, a longtime member of Hudson River Sloop Clearwater and educator who loves spending time on and near the Hudson River. Thanks so much for joining me today at one of my favorite locations on the Hudson River. This park is located at River Mile 35 at Croton Point Park in Westchester County, New York, on the Hudson River. Today's video is all about estuaries. What is an estuary? And why are estuaries so valuable to the living organisms who reside near and or in them? Let's get started. There's a lot to love in an estuary. They're popular destinations for fishing, boating, bird watching, hiking, and they're beautiful places with an abundance of beaches, diverse wetland grasses, wide marshes, fresh water flowing into the river from creeks and streams, and an incredible diversity of wildlife. The wildlife depends on the estuaries for their food, for places to breed, and for migration stopovers. One of my favorite Hudson River resources, the Hudson, an illustrated guide to the living river, defines an estuary as a semi-enclosed coastal body of water freely connected to the sea, in which salty seawater is mixed and diluted with fresh water running off the land. We can also define it as an estuary as an area where salt water and fresh water mix together, or an arm of the sea. But how does salt water and fresh water end up mixing together in the Hudson River? Before answering, take a few seconds and think about it. Salt water from the Atlantic Ocean and New York Harbor mixes with fresh water from countless tributaries, small rivers and streams, emptying into the Hudson River watershed. One of my favorite Hudson River tunes is The River That Flows Both Ways. And the lower Hudson River really is tidal, and the river does flow both ways. The direction of the river moves from south to north, or from New York City to Albany, and moves from north to south, or from Albany to New York City, 4 times a day. So the salt water and fresh water mix together, creating brackish water, a combination of salt and fresh water. This brackish water is where life begins and is the home to different species of plants and animals that have adapted to this mix of salt water and fresh water. The following science investigation shows what happens when salt water and fresh water mix together to make brackish water. The clear water represents fresh water. The blue water represents salt water. Where the two waters meet or come together represents a salt front. The salt front helps facilitate the large diversity of living organisms in Hudson River estuaries. The pepper added to the brackish water represents plant nutrients entering the estuary. So why is the blue or salt water below the clear or fresh water? The salt water contains salt, which makes the volume or density of the salt water greater. So the salt water ends up below the fresh water. The pepper or plant nutrients move through both the fresh water and salt water, but lots of the nutrients become trapped or concentrated by the salt front. The salt front is the location where we begin to detect salt in the water, around 6 parts per thousand. This front can move up and down the estuary depending on the amount of fresh water flowing into the estuary. In the Hudson River estuary, these nutrients provide food for lots of different types of fish, and the trapping effect of the salt front keeps the nutrients in the estuaries. These estuaries grow in great numbers and help support food chains beginning with plants, free-floating ones like phytoplankton, and submerged aquatic vegetation which feeds tiny animals and then become food for small fish. With lots of plants available, estuaries become some of the most productive ecosystems in the world. More creatures continue up the food chain and historically have fed humans who have lived there. Unfortunately, human-made pollution has led to health advisories on consuming many of the fish in the estuary. The abundance of living organisms and diversity of plant life are not the only reasons estuaries are so valuable up and down the Hudson River. They also help protect and improve water quality by filtering human-made contaminants and serve as a buffer, protecting people from coastal storms. By revitalizing and creating habitats for fish, wildlife, and plants, Hudson River fisheries and wildlife are sustained and protected. In 1982, the Hudson River National Estuary Research Reserve was created to help protect these vital ecosystems. If you're fortunate enough to visit one of these 4 protected Hudson River estuaries, Stockport Flats, Tivoli Bays, Iona Island, or Piermont Marsh, the almost 5,000 protected acres of coastal wetlands situated along 100 miles of the Hudson River are examples of healthy, vibrant, and resilient Hudson River ecosystems. In closing, when visiting a Hudson River estuary, you get to experience firsthand nature's beauty and wildlife. Estuaries are essential for the well-being of the people and communities of the Hudson River Valley. The river that flows both ways has created some of the most magnificent and important ecosystems in the lower Hudson River areas. Just ask the over 200 different species of fish that make their home in the Hudson River. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you know a little bit more about estuaries and why Hudson River Sloop Clearwater is so committed to taking care of these very special ecosystems.